Can art be objectively good? This is a question that philosophers have debated since the dawn of man. Is this value only representative of the eye of the beholder, or something more? Thousands of years, the greatest thinkers the world has ever known, all inconsequential because somebody online said Undertale is overrated. Yes, this description we assign to anything undeserving of that high acclaim. Overrated, overhyped. It's interesting to me because it's an adjective that never remained static. No, the state of being overrated can completely change and flux, and this is because it takes two elements to become overrated: the public's perception of worth and the personal perception of worth. And here lies the biggest issue with this whole word, because personal perception isn't objective, but neither is measuring the general public's perception. So we're talking about a subjective view based on subjective views based on subjectively viewing objective views. But even with so many opinions coming into play, the results of being labeled overhyped are not. Anything can be overhyped, even if it's undeserving. And for me, all of these shower thoughts manifested from one work: The Last of Us. Not two, not yet. Back in the day, this game was all the rage. From the 10 out of 10s on the IGNs, it was hard to traverse the web without being reminded that this game was a thing and you should play it. The way people talked about it was, well, it sounded like a transcendent experience, combining the engaging storytelling of the highest class of films and the best gameplay you could ask for. And so I got it, and I played it, and well, I finished like half of it, and then I quit because I didn't like it. The story was fine for a game, but this was less Academy Award and more so on par with your average Walking Dead episode. The gameplay felt pretty stiff, and in the category of third-person action games, it wasn't the most engaging. When anything tries to tug at the emotional heartstrings, it just doesn't work for me, especially when it feels forced. And this game felt like it wanted to appear artistic while abandoning the pretense of fun. Now that was a while ago. Well, those opinions were fairly hot takes back in the day, and probably even now, but there's a new story. The sequel, The Last of Us 2, More of Us, and it's divisive. If you had a bone to pick, then you picked those bones clean. The story leaked weeks before launch, and people didn't seem to like the gameplay, and they had a lot of complaints about a lot of things. And while I had no real vested interest in the series, I was intrigued. Now I figure the reviewers are going to give it 10 out of 10 because, well, they like the storytelling stuff in games because it makes the whole medium they write about feel more artistic. That gives them a stiffy. And they did all that, but the general public had a less positive reaction. And for the sake of knowledge, I decided, hey, I'll buy this game. This game I definitely won't like because I didn't like the first one, and this is just more of that. So I didn't play the game. I just didn't want to. I just got one of my friends. Say hi, Ian. I got him to play the game for me, and I just watched, and it was exactly what I expected. You have the linear paths where Sony wants you to ooh and the ah, and it's entirely baked lighting, 30 FPS, so, you know. The writing felt stiff, the character motivations were strange, and the gameplay looked far from engaging. But then again, I came into this game knowing I wasn't gonna get something I liked. Okay, so I know my thoughts, but how do I measure the general public's reaction? After all, how can this be overrated if we don't know exactly how it's rated? Of course, the easiest way would be check the game reviews, but the issue I have here comes down to possible interference. See, when Vice posted a less than glowing review of the game, Sony found it necessary to come down to the offices and show a little muscle. Companies hand out early copies of products. They allow early access to films and games to allow these reviews to go live before the product actually launches, in sort of a form of marketing. Of course, you would want that marketing to be positive, so if a review isn't entirely what a company wants, they can just stop sending you early copies. And if everybody else posts a review a week before release and you post it a week after, you're not gonna get that many clicks. So when Sony does this kind of shit, it's more or less saying, hey, not everything's on the up and up, and so it's hard for me to take all of these glowing reviews just on face value. As for the general public, well, as I said, it's divisive, so it's hard for me to say this is too overrated because, you know, is it actually rated that good? Yeah, a good standard is if you can go out in public and say, this product here, this thing is overrated, and you don't get a giant reaction, it's probably not overrated because most people's opinions align with your own. Okay, this video is not about me complaining about Last of Us 2. Instead, I wanted to see if it was possible to find out if something can be actually overrated, like objectively overrated, and not just in my opinion. And so, well, that's what the video is about. You know what you're in for. Okay, so first off, not just media can be overrated. You can have general brands, technology, breeds of dogs can all be labeled overrated. Is VR overrated? Is 4K? Is this pug? They're all valid questions, but quantifying the rating of VR or the pug might be challenging. But lucky for us, not everything is so abstract. See, stock prices waver based on public perception versus personal perception all the time. This price is based on the shareholders' perception of the company's worth and rises and falls based on whether shareholders think this price is over or underrated. This is actual objectivity, quantifiable proof, albeit only in the vein of companies' monetary worth, but we're getting close. In other mediums, metrics can exist like specs. I can see that a Mac desktop is overrated considering its abysmally high price tag and its real-world performance compared to a competing product for the same price. Even if I have a Mac for certain applications, that doesn't mean these features are what most people are buying these computers for. The challenge arises though when trying to translate hard data in numbers like this into the perceived value of, say, the lineup of 2000 Nicktoons. And that's why I made this chart. The Y value represents general commercial success. How much money or how popular was this work? The X value is critical success. How good were the reviews or the public perception, at least when it launched? So something like Jurassic Park 5 or whatever the fuck it was a huge hit, but most people didn't like it. So that goes here. And then something like the Avengers was super popular, and a lot of people probably liked it, some people liked it, so it goes like right there. And then something like Citizen Kane was universally acclaimed, but Hearst blocked it from being shown, so low box office turnout, it goes like right there. Now this system is not foolproof, as I've said. Reviews nowadays are not that reflective of the public's thoughts, and more so the stranglehold of publishing firms and ulterior motive. So if you were to place a standard Call of Duty release in mass critical reception, that might be a mistake. None of that matters though, because we're mostly interested in this corner right here. Works that are both highly acclaimed and incredibly successful. And not everything is necessarily going to be overrated, but if anything is, it's going to be right here. What lines up here best is your Titanics and your Avatars and your Grand Theft Autos and your Disneys and your Nintendos, and I suppose most everything Naughty Dog has made in the past decade or so. Again, not necessarily overrated, but this is the highest chance. Beyond this, we have one final axis to consider, a Z-axis of time. Basically, how is something viewed now? Is it remembered? Is it despised? Because it's hard to assign the label of overrated until we know that something was overrated. If these top-tier works were supposed to be revolutionary, if they were called the best of media, did they have more resonance than other works from the same time frame? But if you want concrete overratedness, something unanimously considered unworthy of praise and success in its time, there is one work that perfectly embodies this. 1998's Shakespeare in Love. A film that is more or less a standard romantic drama regarding Shakespeare and Shakespeare things. This movie is bizarre, but not like in topic or script or acting, but just in how unspectacular it is. It brings literally nothing new to the table. It's not awful, not good. It could be a fake movie within a real movie. This is generic, disposable trash. And it won Best Picture against Saving Private Ryan. Well, the reason for this was good old Harvey I'm a Toucher Boobies Weinstein produced the film and manipulated the general critics and Academy to give it praise. And that praise brought more people to see it, and the film did super well, and people thought it was high art because other people said it was, and they have English accents. In hindsight, the general consensus is that we were duped. Now, this isn't to say nothing else is overrated. There's always an element of subjectivity to this. Anything in this category is fair game, but it's up to you to decide whether it's worthy of its success. As for the most underrated piece of media, it's Freddy Got Fingered.
You hear that, Dad? You're gonna pay! He's a molester. He's a child molester! Ah!